Welcome back. Another day behind you. Another night ahead. Tonight, we open a vault that every human enters, every single day, yet understands only faintly. Sleep. Not as mystery wrapped in folklore. Not as myth told around fires. But as biology. As chemistry. As an elegant system shaped by hundreds of millions of years of evolution. Sleep is not a pause in life. It is not lost time. It is not the brain switching off like a machine powering down. It is one of the most active, essential, and carefully regulated processes your body performs. More active, in some ways, than waking itself. Tonight, we will move slowly through the science of sleep. How it evolved when the first nervous systems began processing the world. How your brain changes as you rest. What happens inside your neurons, your hormones, the very architecture of consciousness. And why every culture that has ever existed has protected sleep in its own way, built rituals around it, understood it as sacred. There is nothing you need to do. No techniques to master. No goals to reach. No pressure to stay awake or fall asleep. Simply listen and allow the subject itself, sleep, speaking about sleep, to guide you gently toward rest. If your eyes grow heavy, let them close. If sleep arrives while we're still exploring, welcome it. The vault will be here tomorrow. Let's begin where all things begin, with the question of why. From an evolutionary standpoint, sleep appears almost reckless. Consider what sleep demands of an animal. Hours of unconsciousness. Vulnerability to predators. Inability to hunt or forage. Reduced awareness of threats. No opportunity to mate or establish territory or defend resources. For a gazelle on the African savanna, sleep is dangerous. For a bird in a tree, sleep is risk. For early humans in a world filled with predators, sleep left them exposed. And yet, sleep evolved anyway. Not just in humans, but in virtually every complex organism that has a nervous system. This universality tells us something profound. If sleep were optional, if animals could survive without it, natural selection would have favored the sleepless. The animal that never rested would have more time to eat, to reproduce, to survive. But that animal doesn't exist. Every mammal sleeps. Every bird sleeps. Reptiles sleep. Fish sleep. Even insects enter sleep-like states. Dolphins and whales, who must surface to breathe, have evolved a remarkable solution. They sleep with one half of their brain at a time, keeping the other half awake to surface for air. This is how essential sleep is. Evolution found a way to preserve it even when it seems impossible. Early scientists, observing this universal behavior, proposed a simple explanation: sleep must exist to conserve energy. The body rests. Metabolism slows. Energy is saved. It made sense. It was tidy. It was wrong. Modern research has revealed something more complex and far more interesting. During sleep, your brain doesn't rest. It doesn't slow down and idle quietly. In many regions, the brain becomes more active during sleep than during waking. Blood flow increases to specific areas. Electrical activity intensifies. Networks that were quiet during the day suddenly light up with coordinated firing. Sleep uses enormous energy, especially in the brain. So if sleep isn't about conservation, what is it about? Maintenance. Restoration. Reorganization. Your brain, during waking hours, accumulates damage. Neurons fire billions of times. Metabolic waste products build up. Connections form between cells, some useful, many random. Information floods in from every sense, creating a chaotic landscape of experience. Sleep is when the brain sorts through all of this. Think of it as a city after a busy day. Streets are cluttered. Garbage has accumulated. Infrastructure has been stressed. Repairs are needed. Sleep is the night shift. The cleaning crew. The maintenance workers who arrive after everyone goes home. And just like a city, the brain cannot do this work while simultaneously handling daytime operations. The systems needed for maintenance interfere with the systems needed for consciousness. So consciousness withdraws. The world fades. And the real work begins. This is why sleep evolved. Not as an unfortunate necessity, but as a biological imperative, as essential to survival as eating or breathing. You cannot go without it. Not for long. Not without severe consequences. The longest scientifically documented period without sleep is about 11 days, achieved by a teenager in 1964 as part of a science project. By the end, he was experiencing hallucinations, paranoia, and severe cognitive impairment. When he finally slept, his body immediately prioritized deep sleep and REM sleep, the stages most critical for brain maintenance. His brain was desperate for the work it had been denied. Sleep is not optional. It is survival. Inside your brain, tucked deep within the hypothalamus, a structure about the size of an almond, is a cluster of approximately 20,000 neurons. This structure is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SCN for short. It functions as your master clock, your internal timekeeper. But this clock doesn't tell time the way a watch does, measuring hours and minutes mechanically. It tells time the way the sun does, through light and darkness. Through the ancient rhythm of day and night that has governed life on Earth for billions of years. Here's how it works. When light enters your eyes, the signal travels along the optic nerve. Most of that signal goes to your visual cortex, where it becomes sight, the colors and shapes and movements you perceive. But some of that light signal branches off and travels to the SCN. This is separate from vision. You don't see this light consciously, but your brain registers it and uses it to set your internal clock. When the SCN detects light, especially blue wavelengths from morning sun, it sends signals throughout your body. Release cortisol. Increase body temperature. Sharpen alertness. Suppress melatonin production. Prepare for activity. When darkness arrives, the signals change. Lower body temperature. Release melatonin. Reduce alertness. Prepare for sleep. Melatonin, often called the sleep hormone, doesn't actually make you sleep directly. It's more subtle than that. Melatonin is a signal, a biological announcement of darkness. It tells your body, the day has ended. Night is here. Begin the transition. Think of it as dusk for your biology. Your circadian rhythm evolved under predictable conditions. For millions of years, the sky brightened at dawn and darkened at dusk. Firelight provided gentle, warm illumination in the evening, nothing like the intensity of the sun. Your biology is calibrated to this ancient pattern. But now, consider the modern environment. Electric lights in every room, blazing at full intensity until the moment you close your eyes. Screens emitting blue light, the exact wavelength that tells your SCN it's morning, used casually at midnight. Irregular sleep schedules that shift by hours from one day to the next. Your internal clock is trying to track the sun, but it's receiving conflicting signals. Bright light at 11 p.m. tells your SCN, it's still daytime. Stay alert. So cortisol remains elevated. Body temperature stays high. Melatonin release is delayed. Then you decide to sleep. But your biology hasn't received the signal to prepare. So sleep becomes difficult. This mismatch, ancient biology meeting modern environment, is at the heart of modern sleep difficulties. Not weakness. Not poor discipline. just a clock trying to follow a sun that no longer sets predictably. The remarkable thing is that your circadian rhythm persists even without external cues. Scientists have placed people in environments with no natural light, no clocks, no time cues whatsoever. Caves. Isolated chambers. Complete temporal darkness. And even there, the human circadian rhythm continues, cycling approximately every 24 to 25 hours. Your body knows what time it is, even when cut off from the world. This internal timing regulates far more than just sleep. Body temperature follows a daily curve, lowest around 4 a.m., highest in the late afternoon. Hormone levels fluctuate. Cortisol peaks in the morning. Growth hormone releases during deep sleep. Testosterone peaks early morning. Even your immune system follows a circadian pattern, with different immune cells more active at different times of day. You are not a static system. You are a rhythm. A biological tide that rises and falls with the rotation of the earth. And sleep is the anchor of that rhythm, the deepest valley in the daily wave. Sleep is not a single state. It is not one thing. It unfolds in cycles, each lasting roughly 90 to 110 minutes, repeating 4 to 6 times across the night. Each cycle contains distinct stages, each with its own purpose, its own brain activity, its own contribution to restoration. Let me walk you through one complete cycle, through the stages your brain will move through tonight, and every night. Stage 1, the threshold. This is the doorway between waking and sleep. Your muscles begin to relax. Thoughts start drifting, losing their logical thread. External awareness loosens its grip. Your eyes may roll slowly under closed lids. Your breathing becomes more regular. This stage is brief, usually just a few minutes. But it is essential. It is the brain disengaging from the external world, withdrawing attention from the senses, beginning the inward turn. People awakened from stage 1 often insist they weren't asleep. They were just resting their eyes. But the brain was already transitioning, already changing its electrical patterns. This is where hypnic jerks sometimes occur, those sudden muscle twitches that jolt you awake just as you're drifting off. Scientists believe these happen because, as your muscles relax, your brain briefly misinterprets the sensation as falling. So it triggers a reflex to catch yourself. Your body, confused by the transition, trying to save you from a fall that isn't happening. Stage 2, settling in. Heart rate slows further. Body temperature drops. Brain waves become more rhythmic, punctuated by sudden bursts of activity called sleep spindles. These spindles are fascinating. They're brief surges of brain activity, lasting just a second or two, that occur dozens of times per hour during stage 2. Scientists believe sleep spindles are involved in memory consolidation, in protecting sleep from disruption, and in transferring information from short-term to long-term storage. This stage occupies the largest portion of your total sleep time, roughly 45 to 55% of the night. It is where the brain begins sorting through the day's information, deciding what to keep and what to discard. Stage 3, the deep descent. Also called slow wave sleep, or deep sleep. Brain waves slow dramatically, becoming large, rolling oscillations instead of the quick, choppy patterns of waking consciousness. This is the deepest form of unconsciousness most people regularly experience. Waking someone from stage 3 is difficult. If you succeed, they'll be disoriented, confused, foggy. It takes several minutes for normal consciousness to return. This is physical restoration at its most intense. Growth hormone pulses through your bloodstream, essential for tissue repair, muscle growth, cellular regeneration. Your immune system strengthens. White blood cell production increases. Inflammatory responses are regulated. Your cardiovascular system rests. Heart rate and blood pressure drop to their lowest levels of the day. Children and adolescents spend more time in deep sleep than adults, which makes sense, given how much growth and development their bodies are undertaking. As you age, deep sleep gradually decreases. This is one reason older adults often feel less refreshed by sleep. Not because they're sleeping less total hours necessarily, but because they're getting less deep sleep within those hours. Deep sleep dominates the early part of the night. During your first 90-minute cycle, you might spend 30 to 40 minutes in deep sleep. By your fourth or fifth cycle, deep sleep may be nearly absent. This is why the first few hours of sleep are so crucial. If you only get 4 hours of sleep, you'll still get most of your deep sleep. But you'll miss most of your REM sleep, which concentrates later. Stage 4 REM sleep, the paradox. REM stands for Rapid Eye Movement Sleep, named for the distinctive quick, darting movements your eyes make beneath closed lids during this stage. This is where most vivid dreaming occurs. And here's what makes REM sleep so paradoxical. Your brain becomes highly active, sometimes more active than during waking, while your body becomes temporarily paralyzed. Brain scans of people in REM sleep show intense activity in the visual cortex, the motor cortex, the emotional centers of the brain. Neural firing rates match or exceed waking levels. Yet your muscles are essentially disconnected from your brain. Signals from the motor cortex don't reach your muscles. This is called REM atonia, temporary paralysis. This prevents you from acting out your dreams. From thrashing, running, fighting the imaginary threats your brain is conjuring. When this system fails, a condition called REM sleep behavior disorder, people do act out their dreams, sometimes violently, often with no memory of it upon waking. During REM sleep, several critical processes occur. Memory integration. The brain replays experiences from the day, testing different combinations, forming associations, strengthening important connections while pruning unnecessary ones. Emotional processing. The brain revisits emotional experiences, but in a neurochemically different environment. Stress hormones are suppressed. This allows you to process difficult emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. REM sleep is emotional therapy, conducted automatically each night. Creativity and problem solving. With logical control centers partially offline and associative networks highly active, your brain makes unusual connections. This is why problems sometimes solve themselves overnight, why creative insights arrive after sleep. REM sleep increases across the night. Your first REM period might last only 5 to 10 minutes. By morning, you might have REM periods lasting 30 to 40 minutes. This is the sleep architecture, the structure that repeats, with variations, across every night of your life. 4 stages. Rising and falling. Deep sleep giving way to REM. Then cycling back to light sleep. Then descending again into deep sleep. A rhythm within the larger rhythm of day and night. While you sleep, while consciousness withdraws and the external world fades, your brain performs several critical tasks. Tasks that cannot be accomplished while you're awake. Tasks essential for survival. Let's explore them one by one. Memory consolidation, the night shift. During the day, you experience thousands of things. Conversations, images, sensations, thoughts, problems, information. Your brain cannot possibly keep all of it. That would be overwhelming, inefficient, impossible. So sleep acts as an editor. During sleep, especially during REM sleep in stage 2, your brain replays the day's experiences. Not randomly. Selectively. Neural patterns that fired during learning fire again during sleep, but faster, in compressed sequences. Scientists can actually detect this, They can see the same patterns of brain activity that occurred while a rat learned to navigate a maze, playing again during the rat's sleep, compressed into rapid bursts. This replay serves multiple purposes: strengthening important connections, memories you'll need, skills you practiced, information you learned, experiences that had emotional significance, get reinforced. The synapses involved in those memories are strengthened, making retrieval easier, weakening unnecessary connections. Details that don't matter: what color shirt a stranger wore, the exact wording of an unimportant email, fade. Their synapses weaken, freeing up neural resources, integrating new information with existing knowledge. The brain doesn't store memories in isolation. It connects them to what you already know, building networks of associated information. This is why sleep is so crucial for learning. Studies show this consistently. People who sleep after learning perform significantly better on tests than people who stay awake for the same duration. Not just a little better, dramatically better. Sleep doesn't just preserve memories. It transforms them. It extracts patterns, builds connections, integrates understanding in ways that waking consciousness cannot. Students who pull all-nighters before exams are sabotaging themselves. They're denying their brains the very process that would help them retain what they studied. Emotional regulation, processing without overwhelm. The brain's emotional centers, particularly the amygdala, are highly active during REM sleep. This seems strange at first. Why would the emotional brain activate during sleep? Because sleep is when you process emotions without being overwhelmed by them. During waking hours, emotional experiences activate the amygdala and trigger the release of stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. These hormones prepare you for action. They're useful in the moment. But they also make emotional experiences more intense, sometimes overwhelming. During REM sleep, the amygdala is active, replaying emotional experiences. But the locus coeruleus, the region that produces norepinephrine, is completely shut down. So you revisit emotional experiences in a neurochemically safe environment. You process the memory without being flooded by stress hormones. This is why sleep helps with emotional difficulties. Why problems that felt insurmountable at night seem manageable in the morning. Why grief, processed over many nights, gradually becomes bearable. REM sleep is emotional therapy, conducted automatically while you're unconscious. When people are deprived of REM sleep, their emotional regulation deteriorates. They become more reactive, more anxious, more prone to depression. One night of poor sleep increases amygdala reactivity by up to 60%. Your emotional brain becomes hypersensitive, perceiving threats where none exist, overreacting to minor frustrations. Sleep doesn't just rest your emotions. It recalibrates them. The glymphatic system, the brain's cleaning crew. This discovery is remarkably recent, first described in 2012. For years, scientists knew that the body had a lymphatic system, a network of vessels that removes waste products and toxins from tissues. But the brain didn't seem to have one. It remained a mystery. How does the brain, with its intense metabolic activity and constant cellular turnover, remove waste? Then researchers discovered the glymphatic system, a waste clearance system unique to the brain. Here's how it works. Your brain is surrounded by cerebrospinal fluid, a clear liquid that cushions and protects the brain. During sleep, especially during deep sleep, the space between brain cells expands slightly, by about 60%. Cerebrospinal fluid flows through these expanded spaces, washing through brain tissue like a tide, carrying away metabolic waste products that accumulated during the day. One of these waste products is beta amyloid, a protein that, when it accumulates, forms the plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. The lymphatic system clears beta amyloid during sleep. When sleep is chronically insufficient, beta amyloid accumulates faster than it can be cleared. This is one reason why chronic sleep deprivation is associated with increased risk of neurodegenerative disease. Your brain literally cleans itself while you sleep. The process is so efficient that waste clearance during sleep is roughly twice as effective as during waking. But it requires sleep. Specifically, it requires deep sleep, when the brain's cellular architecture can relax enough for fluid to flow freely. Without adequate sleep, your brain drowns slowly in its own waste products. Synaptic homeostasis, pruning the garden. During the day, as you learn and experience and think, synapses, the connections between neurons, are strengthened. This is necessary for learning. But it creates a problem. If synapses only ever strengthened, never weakened, your brain would become saturated. Every connection would be at maximum strength. There would be no dynamic range, no ability to distinguish important from trivial. Sleep solves this through a process called synaptic homeostasis. During sleep, particularly during deep sleep, the brain systematically weakens synapses, bringing them back down to baseline levels. Not randomly. Selectively. Strong, important synapses, the ones reinforced repeatedly, the ones connected to meaningful learning, are preserved or only slightly weakened. Weak synapses, the ones formed casually, the ones that serve no lasting purpose, are eliminated. This pruning is essential. It's how the brain maintains its ability to learn new things. It's how signal gets separated from noise. Without sleep, this process fails. The brain becomes cluttered with weak, unnecessary connections. Learning becomes harder. Memory becomes less reliable. Sleep is how your brain keeps itself sharp. Dreams have fascinated humans for as long as humans have existed. Every culture has developed theories about dreams. Messages from gods. Visits to other realms. Prophecies. Symbolic communications from the unconscious. The truth, revealed by modern neuroscience, is perhaps more interesting than any myth. Dreams are not random noise. They are not meaningless static generated by a resting brain. They are the byproduct of the brain's nightly work, memory consolidation, emotional processing, pattern synthesis, experienced as narrative. Here's what happens during dreaming. During REM sleep, several brain regions become highly active while others shut down. Active regions: the visual cortex, generating imagery, the motor cortex, generating sensations of movement, the amygdala, processing emotion, the hippocampus, accessing memories, the association cortices, connecting disparate information. Inactive regions: the prefrontal cortex, logical reasoning, reality testing, the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, working memory, planning. So you have a brain that's generating vivid sensory experiences and strong emotions, accessing memories and making wild associations, all while the parts responsible for logical thinking and reality testing are offline. This creates the distinctive features of dreams. Bizarre combinations. People from different periods of your life appear together. Locations blend impossibly. You're simultaneously in your childhood home and your current apartment. Without reality testing active, these impossibilities don't trigger skepticism. They feel normal. Exaggerated emotions. With the amygdala active but stress hormone systems suppressed, emotions in dreams are often intense yet strangely muted. You feel terror but can't scream, grief but can't cry fully. Fragmentary narratives. Dreams jump between scenes without logical transitions because the prefrontal cortex, which normally maintains narrative coherence, is offline. Weak memory formation. You forget most dreams because the brain regions responsible for forming long-term explicit memories are not fully engaged. Dreams are experienced but not recorded the way waking experiences are. So what purpose do dreams serve? They are the conscious experience of memory consolidation and emotional processing. Your brain is taking fragments of recent experience, conversations, images, problems, emotions, and testing combinations, exploring associations, strengthening some connections, weakening others. Dreams don't predict the future. They integrate the past. They're your brain asking, how do these experiences relate? What patterns connect them? What does this emotional experience have in common with that memory from years ago? The bizarre narratives your conscious mind constructs around this process are almost incidental, your waking consciousness's attempt to make sense of neural activity it wasn't designed to interpret. But occasionally, this process produces genuine insights. Problems that seemed unsolvable can resolve themselves overnight because your dreaming brain, freed from logical constraints, explores solution paths your waking mind wouldn't consider. Artistic inspirations emerge because associations that would seem absurd while awake reveal unexpected beauty or meaning during dreams. The chemist August Kekulé reportedly discovered the ring structure of benzene after dreaming of a snake biting its own tail. The dream didn't contain the answer, but it presented a pattern that, upon waking, he recognized as relevant. Dreams are not prophecy. They're synthesis. Your brain's nightly attempt to make sense of itself. Sleep deprivation affects nearly every system in your body. Not subtly. Not after years of cumulative deficit. Immediately, measurably, dangerously. Let's trace what happens as hours of wakefulness accumulate. The first 16 hours. You've been awake since morning. It's now evening. If you've slept well recently, you might not notice much decline. But careful testing would reveal. Reaction time has slowed slightly, fine motor control has degraded, emotional regulation has weakened, attention has become more effortful. This is normal. Your body's way of saying, sleep is approaching. 18 to 20 hours. Performance begins to decline more noticeably. Your ability to multitask deteriorates. Complex decisions become harder. You're more impulsive, less able to consider long-term consequences. Microsleeps begin, brief moments where consciousness flickers off for a few seconds without your awareness. If you're driving, these microsleeps can be fatal. 24 hours. After a full day and night without sleep, impairment resembles alcohol intoxication. Cognitive performance drops by roughly 25%. Reaction time is significantly slower. Decision-making is notably impaired. Emotional regulation collapses. Small frustrations trigger disproportionate reactions. Anxiety increases. Mood darkens. Your immune system weakens. After just one night of sleep deprivation, natural killer cell activity, your body's first defense against viruses and cancer, drops by up to 70%. 36 to 48 hours. Hallucinations may begin. Visual distortions. Hearing sounds that aren't there. Paranoia. Memory formation becomes severely impaired. You can't form new long-term memories effectively. Motor control degrades significantly. Simple tasks become difficult. Beyond 72 hours. The brain begins to force sleep involuntarily. Microsleeps become longer and more frequent. Perception of reality becomes unstable. Distinguishing real from imagined becomes difficult. The longest scientifically documented case of sleeplessness lasted 11 days. A teenager named Randy Gardner, in 1964, for a science fair project. By day 11, he was experiencing severe cognitive and perceptual impairment, but no lasting damage. When he finally slept, his brain immediately prioritized the sleep stages it needed most. Deep sleep first, then REM sleep. Recovery took several nights, but full recovery was possible. However, chronic partial sleep deprivation, getting 5 to 6 hours instead of 7 to 9, night after night, produces cumulative effects that are more insidious. The long-term consequences. People who chronically sleep less than 6 to 7 hours per night show increased risk of cardiovascular disease. Shortened sleep duration is associated with hypertension, increased heart rate variability, higher risk of heart attack and stroke. Metabolic dysfunction. Sleep deprivation disrupts insulin sensitivity and glucose metabolism, increasing diabetes risk. It also disrupts hormones that regulate hunger, leptin and ghrelin, leading to increased appetite and weight gain. Weakened immunity. Chronic sleep insufficiency reduces the body's ability to fight infections and may reduce vaccine effectiveness. Neurodegenerative disease. Inadequate sleep impairs the glymphatic system's ability to clear beta amyloid, potentially increasing Alzheimer's risk. Mood disorders. The relationship between sleep and mental health is bidirectional. Poor sleep increases risk of depression and anxiety, while these conditions disrupt sleep, creating a vicious cycle. Shortened lifespan. Large population studies consistently show that people who sleep less than 6 hours or more than 9 hours have higher mortality rates than those who sleep 7 to 8 hours. Sleep is not optional maintenance. It is biological survival, as essential as eating or breathing. Our ancestors lived under conditions that naturally supported sleep. As the sun set, darkness arrived. Firelight provided gentle, warm illumination, nothing like the intensity of daylight. Activities slowed. Social interaction shifted to storytelling, quiet conversation, preparation for rest. The environment cued sleep naturally. Modern life has severed those cues. The light problem. Electric light is everywhere. Bright overhead lights in every room, used casually until the moment before sleep. Screens, phones, tablets, computers, televisions, emit blue wavelengths that specifically suppress melatonin release. Remember, your suprachiasmatic nucleus interprets light as a signal about time of day. Blue light tells it, morning has arrived. So at 11 p.m., while your circadian rhythm is trying to prepare your body for sleep, your phone is telling your brain it's dawn. Melatonin release is delayed. Body temperature stays elevated. Alertness persists. Then you're frustrated that you can't fall asleep. The schedule problem. For millions of years, humans woke with the sun and slept when darkness fell. Consistent timing, every day, season after season. Modern life offers no such consistency. Work schedules vary. Social obligations extend into late evening. Weekends follow different patterns than weekdays. Social jet lag, where people try to make up weekend sleep debt by sleeping in, further confusing their circadian rhythms. Shift workers have it worse. Their schedules force them to sleep during the day and stay awake at night, fighting against millions of years of evolution. This is why shift work is associated with higher rates of metabolic disease, cardiovascular problems, and mental health issues. It's not just the sleep deprivation, it's the circadian disruption. The stimulation problem. The brain interprets novelty as importance. In ancestral environments, novelty usually meant something significant, a potential threat, an opportunity, something requiring attention. So when your brain detects novelty, it releases neurotransmitters that promote alertness. Now consider late-night scrolling. Every swipe brings new images, new information, new micro-hits of novelty. Your brain interprets this flood of novelty as something important is happening. Stay alert. Even when the content isn't emotionally significant, just random videos, articles, social media posts, the novelty itself maintains arousal. Your nervous system can't distinguish between actually important and merely novel, so it errs on the side of caution. It keeps you awake. The stress problem. Chronic stress elevates cortisol, which interferes with sleep initiation and maintenance. Modern life provides endless sources of stress. Financial worries, work demands, social pressures, news cycles designed to trigger anxiety, constant connectivity that prevents true rest. Your nervous system evolved to handle acute stress, run from the predator, then relax once safe. It did not evolve to handle chronic stress that never resolves. Your body stays in a state of partial activation, unable to fully relax into deep sleep. The mismatch. None of this is your fault. None of it reflects weakness or poor discipline. You are a biological organism optimized for one environment, trying to sleep in a completely different one. The solution is not perfection. It's alignment, making deliberate choices that help your ancient biology function in this modern world. Small adjustments, gradual changes, working with your circadian rhythm instead of against it. Sleep cannot be forced. It cannot be commanded into existence through willpower or determination. Sleep emerges when conditions are right. When the brain feels safe, unstimulated, ready. Your job is not to make sleep happen. Your job is to create the conditions that allow sleep to arrive naturally. The foundation, safety. Sleep requires the nervous system to believe you are safe. This is why anxiety prevents sleep. When your brain detects threat, real or imagined, it maintains alertness. It cannot simultaneously monitor for danger and withdraw into unconsciousness. Safety comes from predictability, from routine, from environmental cues that signal. This is the familiar pattern. Nothing unexpected is happening. A consistent sleep routine trains your nervous system to anticipate sleep. The same series of actions each night, dimming lights, washing face, brushing teeth, reading briefly, creates expectation. Expectation reduces vigilance. And vigilance is the enemy of sleep. The signal, darkness. Light suppresses melatonin. Darkness allows its release. This is not metaphorical. It is biochemical. About 2 to 3 hours before sleep, begin reducing light exposure. Dim overhead lights. Use warmer bulbs. Avoid screens if possible, or use blue light filters if not. This allows melatonin to rise naturally, signaling to your body that night has arrived. Darkness also promotes a psychological shift, from outward focus to inward rest. The release, cognitive unloading. The brain struggles to sleep when it's still processing the day. Unresolved problems. Tomorrow's tasks. Worries. Plans. These keep neural networks active, maintaining a state incompatible with sleep. So create a deliberate endpoint to thinking. Write down tomorrow's tasks before evening. Acknowledge worries, set them aside. Engage in activities that don't require problem solving, reading, light stretching, quiet conversation. This signals to your brain. The day's work is done. Processing can stop. The rhythm, consistency. Your circadian rhythm craves predictability. Going to bed at the same time each night, waking at the same time each morning, even on weekends, strengthens your internal clock. This makes falling asleep easier and waking more natural. Inconsistency confuses the system. Your body doesn't know when to prepare for sleep, so preparation is incomplete when you finally lie down. The environment, temperature, and comfort. Your body temperature needs to drop for sleep to initiate. A cool room, around 65 to 68 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 to 20 degrees Celsius, facilitates this drop. Warm showers or baths before bed create a rebound cooling effect as your body releases heat afterward, promoting sleep. Comfort matters too. Not luxury, comfort. A space that feels safe, that eliminates physical irritation, that allows your body to relax completely. The paradox, trying less. The harder you try to sleep, the more elusive it becomes. Effort creates tension. Tension activates the nervous system. Activation prevents sleep. So instead of trying to sleep, create conditions and then allow. Allow your eyes to close. Allow your thoughts to drift. Allow your body to settle. If sleep comes, welcome it. If it doesn't, rest anyway. Rest is still valuable. Rest still provides recovery. The desperate pursuit of sleep often keeps it away. Gentle acceptance invites it closer. Sleep changes as you age. Not just in duration, but in architecture, in quality, in the challenges it presents. Understanding these changes removes unnecessary worry. What feels like dysfunction is often simply life stage transition. Infancy and early childhood. Newborns sleep 14 to 17 hours per day, but in fragments, 2 to 4 hour stretches interrupted by feedings. Their circadian rhythms haven't developed yet. They don't distinguish day from night. They simply sleep when tired, wake when hungry. Around 3 to 4 months, circadian rhythms begin to consolidate. Longer sleep periods emerge, increasingly aligned with nighttime. Young children spend more time in REM sleep and deep sleep than adults, essential for the explosive brain development happening during these years. Neural connections form at an extraordinary rate. The brain is building its foundational architecture. Sleep is when much of this construction happens. Adolescence. Teenagers experience a natural shift in circadian rhythm, a delayed phase that pushes their natural sleep time later. This isn't laziness or poor discipline. It's biology. Their melatonin releases later in the evening and clears more slowly in the morning. Their bodies naturally want to sleep around 11 p.m. midnight and wake around 8 to 9 a.m. Yet most school systems start early, often by 7:30 or 8 a.m., forcing teenagers to wake before their biology is ready. This creates chronic sleep deprivation during a critical developmental period. Studies show that when school start times are delayed by even 30 to 60 minutes, student performance improves, mental health improves, and car accidents involving teen drivers decrease. The problem isn't the teenagers. The problem is the mismatch between biology and schedule. Adulthood. In early and middle adulthood, sleep stabilizes. Most adults need 7 to 9 hours, though there's individual variation. The challenge during these years is usually not biological, it's practical. Work demands, family obligations, social pressures, the feeling that sleep is optional or indulgent. But the biology hasn't changed. The need for sleep remains constant. Adults who chronically undersleep pay compounding costs to health, cognitive function, emotional regulation, and longevity. Older adulthood. As you age, several changes occur. Deep sleep decreases. The proportion of time spent in stage 3 declines. This is why older adults often report feeling less refreshed by sleep. Sleep becomes more fragmented. More frequent wakings during the night, even if brief. Lighter sleep overall. Circadian rhythm advances. The natural sleep time shifts earlier, feeling tired earlier in the evening, waking earlier in the morning. Sleep efficiency drops. More time spent in bed awake. The consolidation of sleep weakens. Some of this is inevitable aging. Some results from health conditions more common with age, pain, medication side effects, sleep disorders like sleep apnea. But older adults still need sleep. The duration needed doesn't decrease dramatically, even if achieving that duration becomes harder. The key is accepting the changes without resignation, adjusting sleep habits to work with aging biology rather than fighting it. napping strategically, maintaining consistent schedules, addressing medical issues, creating optimal sleep environments. Sleep changes, but its importance never diminishes. For some, sleep difficulties stem not from behavior or environment, but from underlying disorders that disrupt sleep's natural architecture. Understanding these conditions removes self-blame and points toward appropriate treatment. Insomnia, the inability to sleep. Insomnia is not just difficulty sleeping occasionally. It's persistent difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or both, occurring at least 3 nights per week for 3 months or more. It often begins with a period of acute stress. Poor sleep during this time is normal. But sometimes the sleep difficulty persists even after the stress resolves. Why? Because anxiety about sleep becomes the new problem. You start worrying about not sleeping, which activates your nervous system, which prevents sleep, which confirms your worry, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. The bed, which should signal rest, becomes associated with frustration and alertness. Treatment often involves cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, CBTI, which breaks this association and rebuilds healthy sleep patterns. Paradoxically, one technique involves restricting time in bed, only lying down when truly sleepy, which increases sleep drive and rebuilds the association between bed and successful sleep. Sleep apnea, when breathing stops. Sleep apnea involves repeated pauses in breathing during sleep, sometimes hundreds of times per night. Each pause triggers a partial awakening, usually so brief you don't remember it, as your brain rouses you enough to restart breathing. This fragments sleep architecture. You never achieve sustained deep sleep or REM sleep. So despite spending 8 to 9 hours in bed, you wake unrefreshed, exhausted. Common signs include loud snoring, gasping or choking during sleep, often noticed by partners, and excessive daytime sleepiness despite adequate time in bed. Sleep apnea is serious. It stresses the cardiovascular system, increases accident risk, and contributes to numerous health problems. But it's treatable. CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure. Machines keep airways open during sleep. Weight loss can help in some cases. Positional therapy. Sometimes surgery. If you suspect sleep apnea, evaluation is essential. Restless leg syndrome, the compulsion to move. An uncomfortable sensation in the legs, often described as crawling, tingling, or aching, that creates an irresistible urge to move. It typically worsens in the evening and when lying down, making sleep initiation extremely difficult. The cause involves dopamine regulation in the brain. Treatment often includes iron supplementation, if deficient, or medications that affect dopamine pathways. Narcolepsy, when sleep intrudes. Narcolepsy involves sudden, uncontrollable sleep attacks during the day, even after adequate nighttime sleep. It stems from the brain's inability to properly regulate sleep-wake transitions. The boundaries between waking and sleep become unstable. People with narcolepsy may also experience cataplexy, sudden muscle weakness triggered by strong emotions, and sleep paralysis or hallucinations when falling asleep or waking. It's caused by loss of neurons that produce hypocretin, a neurotransmitter essential for maintaining wakefulness. Treatment involves medications that promote alertness and planned napping strategies. Circadian rhythm disorders, when timing goes wrong. Some people have circadian rhythms that don't align with conventional schedules. Delayed sleep phase disorder. Natural sleep time is very late, 2 to 4 a.m., making conventional wake times extremely difficult. Advanced sleep phase disorder. Natural sleep time is very early, 6 to 8 p.m., with corresponding early morning wakings. Non-24-hour sleep-wake disorder. The circadian rhythm runs longer than 24 hours, causing sleep time to drift later each day. more common in blind individuals who can't use light to entrain their rhythms. These aren't choices or habits, they're biological timing differences that require specific interventions like light therapy, melatonin timing, or chronotherapy. Seeking help. If sleep difficulties persist despite behavioral changes, professional evaluation is warranted. Sleep disorders are medical conditions, not personal failures. They respond to treatment. They don't require you to simply try harder. Sleep medicine specialists can conduct sleep studies, identify specific disorders, and recommend targeted treatments. Your sleep matters. Your difficulties are real. Help is available. We've touched on memory consolidation, but the relationship between sleep and memory deserves deeper exploration. Because sleep isn't just about storing memories. It's about transforming them. The 3 stages of memory: encoding, taking in information while awake; paying attention, creating the initial neural trace; consolidation, strengthening and reorganizing that trace. This happens primarily during sleep. Retrieval, accessing the stored information later. Sleep primarily affects consolidation, but in doing so, it dramatically affects how well you can retrieve memories later. What sleep does to memories. During sleep, particularly during slow-wave sleep and REM sleep, memories undergo several transformations. Stabilization, newly formed, fragile memories become more resistant to interference. They are less likely to be disrupted by new learning. Integration, isolated memories connect with existing knowledge networks. A fact learned today gets woven into the web of everything you already know, making it easier to access and apply. Abstraction, the brain extracts general principles from specific examples. You learn not just this specific problem solution, but this type of problem solution. Prioritization, emotionally significant memories and memories tagged as important get preferentially strengthened. Trivial details fade. This is why students who study and then sleep before an exam perform better than students who study the same amount but stay awake or sleep deprived. The sleep group's brains have consolidated the material. The sleep-deprived group's brains haven't completed this process. The spacing effect. Memory consolidation is most effective when learning is spaced with sleep between sessions. Study a topic. Sleep. Study it again. Sleep. Study it again. Each sleep period consolidates what was learned, making the next study session more effective. This is why cramming, intensive studying without sleep, produces poor long-term retention. You're trying to encode without allowing consolidation. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You can keep adding water, but without fixing the hole, sleep, it won't accumulate. Motor learning and sleep. This applies not just to facts but to physical skills. Learning to play an instrument, to type, to perform athletic movements, to execute surgical procedures. These skills improve significantly during sleep. Not just stabilize, actively improve. Studies show that people learning a motor sequence often perform it better after a night's sleep than they did at the end of practice the previous day. Their brains, during sleep, optimize the neural pathways controlling the movement. They literally got better without practicing. Creative problem solving. REM sleep, with its unusual pattern of brain activation, facilitates creative insights. The brain makes associations between distant concepts. It explores solution paths that waking logic would dismiss as irrelevant. This is why sleeping on a problem actually works. Not always. Not magically. But often enough that it's a legitimate problem-solving strategy. Present your mind with a problem. Then sleep. Upon waking, solutions sometimes appear that weren't accessible before. Your sleeping brain has been working on it, testing combinations, building connections. The memory cost of sleep deprivation. One night of poor sleep reduces your ability to form new memories by roughly 40%. Chronic sleep deprivation creates a state where you're constantly attempting to learn without adequate consolidation. New information pushes out old information before it can be properly stored. This is why sleep-deprived people feel mentally foggy, forgetful, unable to concentrate. It's not just fatigue, it's impaired memory formation. The solution isn't just more effort. It's more sleep. Sleep has always been ritualized, protected, understood as essential. Every culture that has ever existed developed practices around sleep, recognizing its importance even without understanding its mechanisms. Ancient cultures. In many ancient societies, sleep was seen as a sacred state, a time when the boundary between worlds thinned, when gods might communicate, when the soul traveled. Egyptian texts describe elaborate dream interpretation practices. Dreams were considered messages requiring careful analysis. Greek temples to Asclepius, the god of healing, were designed for temple sleep. Patients would sleep in the temple, hoping for healing dreams or divine intervention. The practice recognized something true: sleep promotes healing, even if the mechanism wasn't understood. Pre-industrial sleep patterns. Before artificial light, sleep patterns differed from modern norms. Historical evidence suggests many people practiced segmented sleep, sleeping in two distinct periods with a wakeful interval between. First, sleep from dusk until midnight or so. Then waking for an hour or two, for prayer, conversation, intimacy, or simply quiet reflection. Then second, sleep until dawn. This wasn't insomnia. It was normal, expected, even valued as a peaceful time. The shift to consolidated 8-hour sleep blocks came with industrialization, when factory schedules demanded consistent wake times and artificial light allowed activity after dark. Sleep rituals across cultures. Bedtime stories, nearly universal across cultures. Not just entertainment, they provide transition, settle the mind, create bonds. Evening prayers or meditation, marking the day's end, releasing worries, preparing for rest. Communal sleeping. In many cultures, families sleep together in shared spaces. The presence of others provides security. Sleep positions and directions. Some cultures specify optimal sleeping directions: head toward north, east, etc., recognizing that environment affects sleep quality. Herbal preparations, chamomile tea, valerian root, lavender, traditional remedies with actual biological effects, promoting relaxation. These practices emerged independently worldwide because they addressed real human needs. They created transition from waking to sleep. They signaled safety. They reduced cognitive arousal. Modern science can explain why they worked. But cultures didn't need science to recognize their value. There is something profound about sleep that goes beyond biology. Sleep requires surrender. Every night, you must release control. Release consciousness. Release your grip on the world. You must trust that you will return. That the world will still be here. That unconsciousness is temporary, not final. For some, this surrender is easy, natural, automatic. For others, it's difficult, frightening even. Anxiety about sleep often masks deeper anxieties, about loss of control, about vulnerability, about mortality itself. Because sleep is a kind of small death, a nightly disappearance, a temporary absence from the world. You lie down. Consciousness fades. Hours pass. You have no awareness of them. Then you return. What happened during that absence? Your conscious mind doesn't know. Couldn't know. This is why meditation traditions often compare deep meditation to sleep. Both involve releasing the ego's grip, allowing consciousness to dissolve or transform. Both require trust, that release is safe, that you can let go without vanishing permanently. The control paradox. You cannot force sleep through willpower. Trying harder makes it harder. This frustrates people accustomed to achieving through effort. I should be able to make myself sleep. But sleep doesn't respond to should. It responds to allowing. The more you relax your grip, the more easily it comes. The tighter you clench, the more it eludes you. This is a lesson that extends beyond sleep. Some things in life respond to effort. Some respond to surrender. Knowing which is which requires wisdom. Sleep as nightly practice. Each night offers practice in letting go. Practice in trusting your body's wisdom. Practice in releasing control. Practice in accepting that some processes happen without, and despite, your conscious involvement. Your brain knows how to sleep. Your body knows how to rest. Your job is not to manage the process. Your job is to stop interfering with it. To create conditions and then step back. To allow. This is harder than it sounds. Especially in a culture that glorifies control, productivity, constant consciousness. But it's essential. Because sleep is not optional. And fighting it only makes it harder. Surrender is not defeat. It's alignment with reality. Across all human history, across every culture, across every individual life, sleep has been constant. Empires have risen and fallen. Technologies have transformed how we live. Languages have emerged and disappeared. But sleep remains. Every night, billions of humans lie down and surrender consciousness. Enter altered states. Dream impossible things. Wake transformed in small ways. This has happened every night for as long as humans have existed. It will happen tonight. It will happen tomorrow night. It will continue long after we're gone. Sleep is not a problem to solve. It's not a challenge to overcome. It's not lost time or wasted hours. It is part of being human. Part of being alive. Your body needs sleep the way it needs food, water, air. This isn't weakness. It's biology. And as you listen now, your body is already doing what it knows how to do. Your breathing has probably slowed without your noticing. Thoughts are becoming less sharp, more diffuse. The boundary between waking and sleeping is softening. This is not something you're making happen. This is something that happens to you, through you, because of what you are. You are an organism shaped by evolution. And evolution built sleep into your very structure. Not as inconvenience, but as necessity. Not as failure of consciousness, but as its complement. The day has its work. The night has its work. And the work of night is sleep. Thank you for exploring this vault with me tonight. We've traveled through millions of years of evolution, through the stages of sleep, through the mechanisms of memory and dreams, through the wisdom of cultures that recognized sleep's importance long before science could explain it. But knowledge about sleep is less important than sleep itself. So if your eyes are heavy, let them close. If sleep is approaching, welcome it without resistance. If wakefulness lingers, don't fight it. Rest in the quiet. Rest is still valuable. Rest is still healing. Your brain is processing what you've heard. Connections are forming. Understanding is deepening. This happens whether you're conscious of it or not. The glymphatic system is preparing to clean. Memories are preparing to consolidate. Your body is preparing to restore itself. All you need to do is allow it. There is another vault waiting when you return. Another chapter of history. Another corner of human experience to explore together. But for now, there is only this. The soft darkness. The quiet breath. The gentle descent into rest. Sleep well.